Star Wars is one of the most popular and influential IPs of our day and age.
Yes.
Big enough to rival IPs like Harry Potter and even Lord of the Rings. And it is one of the largest, most passionate and dedicated fan bases of all time. The kind of fan base that any creative would kill for. And the kind of fan base that modern executives seem to want to kill, just to push
the message.
That sweet, sweet social governance monies. Say what you will about George Lucas. He created an IP so popular and influential that it's achieved universal global recognition that's still culturally relevant even after 5 frickin' decades, with a fandom spanning multiple generations. To add to the impressiveness, Star Wars was an original IP that debuted through the films. Unlike most other IPs, there were no books, comics, or any other source material that predated the movie. As in, Lucas didn't have a pre-existing fan base to help support and build hype for this original IP that nobody knew about. And despite that, the movies have become so ingrained in cultural consciousness that characters and phrases are universally recognized, with such gems as,
"I find your lack of faith disturbing,"
or,
"I am your father."
And even,
"Well, of course I know him. He's me."
And of course, the most profoundly and culturally impactful one of them all.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Wait, no, not that one, this one.
I don't like sand.
Anyways, it's crazy to think that if you showed a picture of Vader or Yoda to almost anyone, anywhere on the planet, they will respond with some level of recognition of these characters, even without having seen a single Star Wars movie. The legacy of the Star Wars franchise is an impressive one, at least up until the point Lucasfilm was sold to Disney. And with the announcement of the next anticipated Star Wars game, Fate of the Old Republic, I've been reflecting on Star Wars and the reasons it's made such a massive cultural impact worldwide. Of course, there are a multitude of contributing factors to its universal success. Interesting and compelling characters, a unique aesthetic, and an iconic score. But the major factor of success I want to focus on in this video is George Lucas's use of the narrative archetype of the hero's journey, used in the original trilogy, a common universal story structure found in many cultural myths across the globe. And within that mythical story arc, Lucas interweaves simple but powerful moral symbolism, which in the films is manifested politically in the struggle between the Rebel Alliance and the Empire, and manifested spiritually in the struggle between Jedi and Sith, between light and dark sides of the Force, blue saber versus red saber. And in that moral simplicity lies metaphysical truths that resonate deep with the human soul, truths that transcend social, political, cultural, and even religious boundaries. I want to explore these metaphysical truths. What are they? And why do they resonate so deeply with us, the audience? Metaphysics is the philosophy of examining the fundamental structure that makes up our reality. So join me in finding out what this 1970s science fiction space opera can teach us about the nature of reality as we break down the metaphysics of Star Wars. Welcome to The Body Aesthetic. My name is Matthew. Star Wars has been on my mind ever since the announcement of Fate of the Old Republic, which as a KOTOR fan, I'm cautiously optimistic about. Millennials like me have had our hearts and hopes shattered way too many times. KOTOR 3, Neverwinter Nights 3, Half-Life 3. Game studios should be paying us reparations for all that trauma.
Emotional damage.
Anyway, today I want to do a deep dive into Star Wars because I believe there are powerful, real-world metaphysical truths that we can learn from this science fiction epic. So without further ado, let's get into it. It's no secret that Lucas modeled Luke Skywalker's story after the hero's journey, a narrative pattern identified by mythologist Joseph Campbell in his 1949 book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces. This narrative pattern was found by Campbell to be present in many mythological and religious stories across cultures and across time. The hero's journey is an archetypical mythical storytelling framework, essentially the same story told in different forms by humans across the ages. As a fan of Campbell's work, Lucas employed this archetypical storytelling framework in the original Star Wars trilogy, and in doing so weaved thousands of years of universal human experience into a seemingly innocuous Saturday morning show, as composer John Williams called it, who regarded Star Wars as a simple children's movie. Them's fightin' words, John. The hero's journey is broken into 3 acts: departure, initiation, and return, and goes something like this. We are introduced to the hero living his ordinary life in his ordinary world. Our hero is presented with an invitation of a quest, a call to adventure. Though he is unsatisfied with his current life, the hero refuses this call, hesitating due to fear or obligation. The hero encounters a mentor, the one who will provide the inexperienced hero with the guidance and tools he needs for the journey ahead. Then something happens in the hero's life that motivates him to accept the call, pushing him across the threshold between his known, comfortable life to the new, unknown world of adventure. Thrust into the world of the unknown, the hero faces challenges in which his allies and his enemies are established and made known to him. Descending into the belly of the beast or the abyss, our hero faces his greatest challenge yet, facing his symbolic death and rebirth. And after facing this challenge, the hero achieves the goal of his quest and claims his reward. Following this transformative experience, the hero obtains new resolve. The journey is not yet over, and the hero prepares to face his final test, using all the knowledge, experience, and help obtained thus far. Here is the confrontation with the beast, an atonement with the father or the abyss. The hero, triumphant, returns to the ordinary world, no longer the person we saw in the beginning, and he receives a gift from the goddess, the symbol of his victory, thus concluding the hero's journey. Great. So what does all this mean? Why exactly is this narrative present in so many human stories across time and space? And why does it resonate with something deep within us? Before I answer these questions, I have some questions of my own to ask you. Have you liked this video yet? Are you subscribed? Why haven't you shared this video with your group chat? And my last question,
Why are you gay?
in the hero's journey of Luke, we find our first metaphysical truth present in the Star Wars saga. At a fundamental level, the story of the hero's journey is a classification of psychological and spiritual growth, a framework that describes the reality of the universal human experience. You see, Campbell was deeply influenced by Carl Jung's ideas in analytical psychology. In Campbell's study of world mythology, he saw Jung's ideas of collective unconscious and archetypes manifest themselves in mythical storytelling, stories that seem to express universal psychological patterns. The hero's journey was the repeating psychological pattern that Campbell classified in his study, what he called the monomyth, a constant circle and cycle of departure, initiation, and return that we humans experience as we go through life, coming of age, falling in love, losing someone dear, confronting our own failures, losing a job or changing careers, facing debilitating illness. These are internal transitions that all of us experience at different points in our lives, universal formative human experiences that have profound impacts on us, so profound that the experience changes us in some way, because these transitions are the manifestation of a constant, metaphysical cosmic war raging just below the surface of the reality we experience. And that is the constant struggle for the balance of power between the primordial forces of order and chaos. When we encounter these life-changing transitional experiences, we are ripped from the stability and order of the life we once knew and cast into the new unknown, a forced encounter with that primordial chaos, manifested as the uncertainty inherent in life. And in the experience of confronting the uncertainty, the chaos, the abyss, we are transformed into a new person, because the abyss demands a price to be paid, and that price is, well, death. The price we pay for personal growth is the life of our old self, our old identity, our old view of the world. We sacrifice the old man on the altar of the self in order to be reborn anew. To borrow from Christian terminology, it is the passion, crucifixion, and resurrection. When life forces us to confront primordial chaos, we experience suffering and trial, the death of a parent or guardian, the struggle with addiction, the loss of a home or safety net. The world as it was known to us begins to fall and unravel around us. What was once the safety of certainty now dissolves into the threat of uncertainty. It is these transitional experiences that can make or break a person. Because we have the divine spark of free will, when we stand at the precipice of great change, we are given an opportunity to choose. The choice to answer the call to adventure, to accept the cross and the inevitable crucifixion it brings.
I will take the ring to Mordor.
To then descend into the abyss and be reborn. Rising triumphantly as a transformed and transcendent individual, a hero, returning back from the battle with chaos to a stable and ordered world, but not exactly the one you left behind at the beginning of the journey. A new world forged directly by you and your willingness to confront the chaos and suffering inherent in the fallen world. Or we can choose to ignore the call, to refuse to confront the chaos and darkness of life and allow that darkness and chaos to have free reign over our lives, to let it grow fat in its ravenous consumption of its favorite subsistence, that is our passivity, our cowardice, and our fear to live, until ultimately our very selves are consumed. Don't be a coward. Accept the call to adventure by smashing that subscribe button.
Got it!
And if you've been watching this channel but still haven't subscribed yet, then
Doesn't that make you gay?
I know the answer, and I think you do too.
Yeah, boy.
At the fundamental level, the hero's journey is about the growth associated with confronting the reality that every single human being in the entire history of mankind must face, down to the very last man, and that is the inevitability of death.
Stories, practically always a human story, is practically always about one thing, aren't they? Death.
What is a more universal human experience than the awareness of our own mortality? The fact is that every single one of us will die. Even you, Brian Johnson. The point of mythical stories, I think, is to externalize the universal human experience of confronting death. Not just confronting the final death we face at the end of our lives, but all the many deaths of the old versions of ourselves as we progress through life, as I mentioned before. Myths externalize the internal struggles we experience when encountering life-changing events. More specifically, they provide a model that gives us hope in times of darkness and despair by demonstrating what is possible when we choose to answer the call to adventure. Because it is a fact of life that you will suffer and you will die.
No. Wait.
But it's only in the willing choice to confront chaos and death that suffering is given context, meaning, and purpose. And meaning and purpose gives a person hope. And this brings me to the next metaphysical truth I've found in Star Wars. Hope is the one thing that motivates movement and choice of all human beings, the fuel of our motivation to carry on and live, to face the pain, darkness, and chaos of life with courage, through the hope of creating a better future. Hopefulness reinforces effort and supports behavior that produces positive potentiality. In simpler terms, the hope of what could be encourages us to get off our ass and fight for it. In the same way, a band of rebels maintains hope in its fight against a seemingly impossible enemy, an all-powerful, galaxy-spanning, ruthless empire, ruled by extremely powerful, evil space wizards, and folks who have no moral qualms with blowing up entire planets, killing billions of people with the push of a button. On the opposite end of hope is, of course, hopelessness. Hopelessness reduces your energy and capacity for action, resulting in the collapse of possibility. Again, to put it in simpler terms, hopelessness simply asks the question, why even bother? The call to adventure is a call to hope, and to refuse the call is to choose hopelessness. You might be thinking, why would anyone even choose hopelessness? I mean, isn't the choice obvious? Doesn't it make the most sense to choose the option that expands possibility rather than reducing it? Why do we even need mythical stories to inspire us to hope in the first place? But the fact is, choosing hopelessness is actually the more attractive option to us. It's the option that most people choose, whether consciously or unconsciously. Because after all, it is the safer option. In fact, I'm going to argue that it is the more natural choice, because it feeds into our instinctual, biological impulses of self-preservation and survival. Think of it this way. Hopelessness is safe because it provides certainty. The certainty of defeat, failure, and pain, but certainty nonetheless. Paradoxically, hopelessness can feel empowering because it reinforces one's cowardice. You see, hope creates a vision of what might be, a vision of a possible future that we become emotionally invested in, resulting in attachment to an imagined future that becomes psychologically real to us, and an expectation is created. And if reality fails to meet the expectation, the pain isn't just one of failure, but also one of grief. Grief over the loss of what could have been. In contrast, by refusing hope, by never seriously trying, by never believing change is possible, we avoid ever becoming emotionally attached to that imagined future. And we remain where we are, stewing in the pain of the status quo, a pain that is familiar and predictable. The pain of failing and the hope of victory is greater than the pain of accepting failure from the beginning. After all, it hurts more to fall from high ground than to have not climbed at all. Because the failure to land the job of your dreams, the failure to earn the affections of your crush, the failure to create that successful business you've been thinking about for years, is a revelation of your weakness, your unworthiness, and your lack. Rather, it is much easier and much safer to lie to yourself and deny your desires, to deny the call, to accept defeat before you've ever taken the first step, thereby guaranteeing the outcome. We all know someone in our life that is always talking about their dreams and goals, but never seem to ever take a step towards them. Maybe that someone is us, because the hero's journey is a test of our mettle, of what we are made of who we are, and most would rather go untested, clinging to the comfort of their illusions about themselves and the world around them, rather than placing themselves before the judgment of reality and revealing the truth. To accept the call to adventure is to ask the question, who am I, really? And for most, it is safer to keep that question unanswered than to face an honest reply, a reply that may threaten to destabilize our very identity, threatening our very sense of self. And this is exactly why we need stories like Star Wars that inspire us to hope. Because without them, our survival instincts will always lead us down the safe path of least resistance, the predictable, consistent, and stable pain of the status quo, where we never have to risk the death of our own ego. Mythical stories like Star Wars show us that despite the fact that reality is full of risk, death, sadness, fear, failure, and struggle, we can overcome these facts of life through hope, inspiring us to transcend our biological instinct of self-preservation, to transcend the flesh, to become more than human, to become a hero. All that from a Saturday morning children's movie. By making it this far, I hope you're enjoying this video, and I hope you're subscribed, and I hope that you're going to share this video with your friends. You see what I did there? Though there's great value in hope, it provides no guarantees, only possibility. But what if I told you that there's a mythical story that presents to us the possibility of a third option? An option that provides the joy of hope, the possibility of change and transformation, and the guarantee of victory. A myth that in fact is the ultimate example of the hero's journey. One that takes the hero's journey to its extreme logical limit. The myth of myths, you could call it. And the story is not a work of fiction, but actually one of history. And that is the story of Jesus Christ. You see, the life of Christ follows a lot of the same beats classified in Campbell's monomyth, and on the surface appears to be yet another example of the hero's journey, akin to the journey of Luke Skywalker, as we've outlined at length already. But dig a little deeper and one finds that Christ both fulfills the hero's journey and in a sense replaces it. You see, in Campbell's mind, the hero is a figure that embodies the universal human journey towards self-actualization and spiritual awakening through the process of facing death, descending into the abyss, and returning with a gift to share with the world. But Christ isn't just a hero, he is the Son of God, the second person of the Trinity, one with God the Father, who is not just any God, but the God of gods, the Lord of lords, who sits on the highest divine throne, holding the highest authority in his council as the Most High God, his ministers a flame of fire. Christ needs no spiritual awakening, for he is the Lord of spirits, and has been for all of time. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And in descending from the right hand of God, the highest place in the heavens, he came down to the earth, being born a man, not only to face death as Luke faced the Death Star, but to take death upon himself, to die fully, experiencing death in the flesh and everything that means. And Christ didn't just descend into the abyss and make it out alive as Luke did. He blew open the gates of Hades, descending into the underworld not as a visitor, but as a conqueror, to conquer the abyss of death itself. And he does not return from the underworld with a gift to be shared, for he himself is the gift to be shared. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. Through the gift of his sacrifice and his resurrection, he has abolished death and thus freed us from our fear of it, the fear that has gripped all of mankind since the fall, the fear that grips Brian Johnson, the fear that is the basis of all stories and myths, as Tolkien mentioned earlier. Through Christ, the abyss is forever conquered. In the words of John Chrysostom of the 4th century, "Let no one fear death, for the Savior's death has set us free. By descending into hell, he made hell captive." Do you see what I mean that Christ both fulfills and replaces the hero's journey? Because he not only faces the abyss, he holds it captive. The story of Christ is the absolute logical limit that one can take with the concept of the hero's journey. For the journey of Christ is from the highest point of heaven to the lowest pits of hell, from the highest point of all time and space to the lowest. encompassing everything in between. It's impossible to concoct a hero's journey that goes beyond the story of Christ, for how can one go beyond encompassing all of time and space? Christ's story is unique not just because it takes mythical storytelling to the absolute limit, but because it's more than just a story. Jesus was a real person, and the events of his life are real events. The hero's journey of Christ replaces the hero's journey of all other myths, and his becomes the new monomyth, the new model or template of transformation and actualization. Because in him, he presents to us a third option that the hero's journey in other myths like Star Wars cannot offer, and that is the offer of the cross. For out of Christ's own mouth did he say, "If anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me." Christ replaces the call to adventure with the call to the cross. And in accepting Christ's call, he offers us both the joy of hope and the peace of certain victory. Because by accepting the call of the cross, we are putting ourselves on the side of the victor, the winning team in the primordial war with chaos and death. For the outcome of the war has already been decided. O death, where is your sting? O hell, where is your victory? In Christ, we are freed from the grip of death by the certainty of his victory, giving way for the fruit of the Spirit, that is joy, love, peace, and then some. However, through the cross, we are not eliminating or avoiding suffering. We are willingly embracing it and presenting it as our sacrifice to God. The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart, O God, thou wilt not despise. By accepting the inevitable suffering of life and offering it to Christ, we are not just facing suffering, but transcending it, sharing in the spoils of Christ's victory over death, Hades, and the abyss. In referencing Christianity, and by extension religion as a whole, a famous Jew once said that religion provides the illusion of happiness and is the opium of the masses.
No offense, but it sounds like some commie gobbledygook.
An idea rooted in both arrogance and ignorance. Arrogance because of believing suffering can be eliminated through systems of control, but ignorance because of the misunderstanding of what exactly Christianity offers. Not a drug to ease the pain inherent in life, but the path to transcend it. Hopelessness is the true opium of the masses because it rewards our cowardice with the pleasure of comfort, the comfort of inaction, trapping us in a dull, static state of complacency. In accepting the true and final call to adventure, the call of Christ to pick up our cross and follow him, can we be crucified with Christ, as Paul the Apostle says, and become more than just a hero, but an adopted son of God, uniting ourselves to Christ the Almighty, Christ the King, Christ the Victor. Now, I don't want you to think I'm dismissing the value of the hero's journey as classified by Campbell, and what it means for us as humans in the search of growth and transformation. These mythical stories, including Star Wars, are powerful, beautiful, and transformational, and need not be explicitly Christian to be so. As I have been saying, we still need stories like Star Wars to inspire us to choose hope. But what I want you to take away from this video is that though mythical stories are powerful and contain metaphysical truths we can learn from, the truths they contain are only fragments that point us to a much greater truth, the ultimate truth. For I am the way, the truth, and the life. As inspirational as it is, Luke's transformational journey is a mere glimpse, a glimpse of the greatest hero's journey ever told. And the new hope that Luke gives the rebellion in episode 4 is a mere glimpse of the greatest hope that exists in the universe, the hope of Christ. And it's wise of us to be aware and recognize that Christ's story is not one of many, but the pinnacle of all stories. His story does not destroy all other stories, but fulfills them. I did not come to destroy, but to fulfill. The hero's journey is still important in encouraging us to bravery in the face of death, but Christ offers us a way to not just face death, but to transcend it entirely. The call to adventure is an invitation to become a hero, while the call to the cross is an invitation to become a son of the Most High God, to become God-like. And that is something no one else, no hero in the history of all mankind, can offer. If you've made it this far, I think you'll really enjoy this video right here, or maybe even this one. Check it out, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching The Body Aesthetic.